It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of June 17th, 2005. We only got 2 movies today, but one of them is one of the biggest game changers in terms of not just comic book movies, superhero movies, but just action movies in general. We'll talk about that one. We'll also talk about the one movie that had the balls to go up against it. Kind of programming, if you will. Hilary Duff and Heather Locklear in a comedy. But we'll get to that one in a little bit here. But let's get to the big new release of the weekend. And just imagine yourself that it's the summer of 2004 and you're being forced to sit through Catwoman, which you know is probably not going to be a very good movie. But then the trailers start playing, and then we get to the last one, and then this little beauty pops up. When that trailer first comes up, it's just like, oh my god, it's finally happening, you know. So it's been 8 years since the last Batman movie. They've been trying to make all these different other Batman movies. There was going to be another one by Joel Schumacher, which got turned down. There was going to be a Batman vs. Superman movie with Wolfgang Peterson attached to it. They were literally going to do a Batman Beyond movie with Darren Aronofsky to direct it. Those movies never got off the ground, unfortunately. And without real competition from DC between Batman and Robin and this, Marvel was able to step in pretty quickly after 1997 and started establishing superhero franchises of their own, with the most successful ones being Blade, X-Men, and Spider-Man, and DC knew that it had to get back into the game if it was going to have any chance of competing with Marvel, so they had to get right back to it. Started off slow with a double whammy in terms of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Catwoman. Slowly they started to show their promise with a little bit of stuff seen in Constantine, but this was the movie that literally kicked it back off again. Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan, who had just directed Insomnia for Warner Brothers, nobody really knew him as a director yet, but this was the movie that was going to prove to everybody that this guy was going to become the future of movies in general. So in Batman Begins, when his parents were killed, millionaire playboy Bruce Wayne, played here by Christian Bale, relocates to Asia when he's mentored by Henry Ducard, played by Liam Neeson, and Ra's al Ghul, played by Ken Watanabe, in How to Fight Evil. When learning about the plan to wipe out evil in Gotham City by Ducard, Bruce prevents this plan from getting any further by heading back to his home. Back in his original surroundings, Bruce adopts the image of a bat to strike fear into the criminals and the corrupt as the icon known as Batman. But it doesn't stay quiet for too long. You have a cast that also includes Michael Caine as Alfred, Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes, Gary Oldman as Officer Jim Gordon, Cillian Murphy as Jonathan Crane, a.k.a. Scarecrow, Tom Wilkinson as Carmine Falcone, and Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox. And talk about a great return to form for Batman following Batman and Robin, with the right people involved to take this comic book universe and make it not only pure as realistic as it can be, but to make these characters exist in the real world and make it seem plausible. Watching the origins of Bruce Wayne coming to be Batman is really fascinating to watch in this movie. And to just see the evolution of this normal guy who lost his parents, who would later become the slick badass we know as Batman, it's incredible. And Christian Bale does a really good job of it. In this movie, in all 3 of the Batman movies he appeared in, he actually makes Batman sound like how Batman should sound. Now, granted, yeah, that was basically Bruce telling Rachel, yeah, I'm Batman, but hey, she's the one that asked. But yeah, that voice he gives is much better and more properly handled than this one that he gives in the other movies. Like in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, it becomes a little bit more quieter and just kind of feels like, I don't know. In this movie, though, it's perfect. Christian Bale is the badass actor that we've come to respect him for over the years. You know, Michael Keaton and Kevin Conroy will always stand out as the ultimate Batman. Even though Robert Pattinson and Ben Affleck were good Batman when they got their chance to play it. But Christian Bale, at least in this first film, pulls it off really well. Liam Neeson and Cillian Murphy make for really good villains in the film, going back to the idea of having 2 villains with Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow. Both of them are very effective villains, carrying a lot of the load, which makes them great villains in the comics as well as the animated adaptations. I like Michael Caine's Alfred a lot. He's a much more developed and more emotionally interpreted, and with a more emotional interpretation of Bruce's butler than what we had seen in previous adaptations. We've seen good adaptations of Alfred in other movies. We just had it with Andy Serkis in The Batman, and then, of course, with Ephraim Zimbalist in Batman the Animated Series. Here he treats Bruce like his son, obviously, because he realizes that he's the only family that Bruce has left. I like Morgan Freeman's Lucius Fox. He's perfectly handled, the only way Morgan Freeman can do it. Gary Oldman, what more can you say about him? He's just pitch perfect as Jim Gordon. He's incredible, and aside from Bale, he gives the strongest performance in the movie. And then there's the big question mark. Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes. Some people like her, some people hate her. Me personally, I thought she was okay. I thought she was good in the movie. I think that, keep in mind, this was when she was with Tom Cruise. They were getting married around that time. I think all that negativity was coming from coming from that in particular. And honestly, it's a real dumb excuse. Holmes is a great actress, but I'm not going to say she's on the level of somebody like, Julia Roberts or Jennifer Lawrence or Meryl Streep. Like, she's a great actress. We've seen her. She's a good actress that we've seen in many good movies. Pieces of April, Wonder Boys, The Gift, The Singing Detective. We'll see her in the next year in Thank You for Smoking. She's doing the job she's supposed to be doing. She's being the damsel in distress, but at the same time, trying to be above the normal damsel in distress that we used to seeing. And it's not like her acting is terrible, but yeah, I'm not going to argue that Maggie Gyllenhaal is a better Rachel than Holmes is. I mean, that's pretty much a given. Action sequences, pitch perfect. Shot beautifully, incredibly well handled by director Christopher Nolan and cinematographer Wally Pfister. The action sequences are all great. A lot of great tension. It just keeps you on the edge of your seat with every scene. That scene where Rachel gets poisoned by the Scarecrow and Bruce is trying to get her back to the Batcave to come up with to have her get away from fix it to get the antidote and all that. Like, that's really good tension-filled moments in that movie. The script overall is great. Christopher Nolan, David S. Goyer are doing a fantastic job giving everybody what they want to see in a Batman movie without overdoing it. The music is great. Nothing can ever come close to what Danny Elfman did, but Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard come pretty damn close with their score. It's an incredible score. There really is not much more I haven't said about this movie that hasn't already been said. It's just an amazing film. Batman Begins did a much better job of rebooting a superhero and changing certain parts of the story of how Batman came to be without letting go of what makes the Batman character such a fascinating character. Also packing on a really great cast that works well off each other, a lot of great action, great characters, great music. It's just a great superhero movie. One of my all-time favorite movies, and the movie that eventually leads into a movie that's very much higher on my list of the best movies of all time, which I've already talked about in full. If you want to go ahead and look for that, just look for the one Batman movie that's not animated on there. I'll just say that. But we'll eventually get to that one on this show we won't get there until 2008 is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, Batman Begins. Now, what movie could possibly have the balls to go up against Batman on that particular weekend? Well, how about a rom-com with Hilary Duff and Heather Locklear? This is The Perfect Man. So Hilary Duff is teenager Holly Hamilton, who's tired of moving every time her single mother Jean, played by Heather Locklear, has another personal meltdown involving yet another second-rate guy. To distract her mother from her latest bad choice, Holly conceives the perfect plan for the perfect man, an imaginary secret admirer who will romance Jean and boost her shaky self-esteem. When the virtual relationship takes off, Holly finds herself having to produce the suitor, barring her friend's charming and handsome Uncle Ben as the face behind the emails, notes, and gifts. Holly must resort to increasingly desperate measures to keep the ruse alive and protect the mother's newfound happiness, although missing the real perfect man when he does come along. So basically, if you watch the Simpsons episode where Bart had to come up with this whole personality for Mrs. Krabappel to fall in love with in one of the classic Simpsons episodes, it's pretty much that episode there, except it's pretty much that blown up into a movie, except that's much funnier than anything in this movie. And yeah, this is the film I think that really begin the downfall of Hilary Duff's promising career. This is the same director that did The Cinderella Story, which was a decent film, but a lot of good talent involved in this movie, man. Like, not just Hilary Duff, who we've seen can be very talented. Heather Locklear. This was kind of the end of her slow, brief reprisal she had around this time. She was in Looney Tunes Back in Action. She was in Scrubs. She was in Spin City. She was on an NBC show that didn't last very long. I like Mike O'Malley. I mean, I just said that joke of his was not that funny, but Mike O'Malley is such a funny guy, and a much better guy than anybody has he's much better than anyone has any real right to be. Like, this is a guy that can be very, very funny. You see him on Yes Dear, and he's very, very funny. Chris Snow from Sex and the City and Law and Order, he's a good actor. Vanessa Langos can be a very good actress. Caroline Rhea usually is very funny, but there's nothing that anybody here is really given in this movie. There's not really a lot of funny material here, and it just feels like a movie that they made because Hilary Duff and Mark Grossman worked together on Cinderella Story. That was a big hit. So Universal probably thought, just have the same thing. Just don't even worry about a script. We'll just let them work their magic that they did there. But the difference was the Cinderella Story actually did have a good script to work off of. This did not, and it just really hurts the film in the long run because there is a possibility with the people involved in here. There's a really good cast involved, a really good idea maybe if done well, we've seen it done in episodic form with The Simpsons, but doing it in a movie like this, you really need to have a really good script to make this work. And this film just really does not have it, unfortunately. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I wanted a little bit more from it. Most people probably saw it and thought, yeah, this isn't gonna be the movie that I thought we were gonna be. And it wasn't that big of a hit, really. It barely made back its $10 million budget, but it barely made double that, like $19.8 million. It was like $200,000 off of what the movie actually cost them, double what the movie cost to make. So it was a little bit of a hit, but even then, nobody remembers this movie. In fact, I had to remember who even made this movie and who else was in it. Like, it's been that long since I know who was involved with this film. Like, overall, yeah, it's just not a good movie in general. It's your typical rom-com with not a whole lot of funny elements to it. Despite a really talented cast, a better director and a better writer could have easily handled this movie in general. But unfortunately, what we got here just isn't worth it in the end. So yeah, this is one you can easily skip. The Perfect Man. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll take a look at 4 more movies, including Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell starring in the TV adaptation of Bewitched, which really isn't a TV adaptation, but kind of like with The Honeymooners, you might be surprised at what I have to say about the movie, because it actually isn't as bad as you would think it is. We also have Lindsay Lohan back on the big screen this year after her success with Freaky Friday and Mean Girls. We have Herbie Fully Loaded. George A. Romero is back with a brand new zombie movie, Land of the Dead. And we also finally get to Morgan Freeman narrating the documentary hit, March of the Penguins. So we got 4 movies to look at. We will take a look at all 4 of them on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you do like what you see and you want to see more videos like this, as I said at the beginning, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification if you can, because we're this close to 4,000 subscribers. And also, don't forget to check out the playlist on the next page to see some other episodes we've done, as well as the last episode we did. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. So until then, I'm off. I'll see you next time. Take care.